Okay, let's continue. Here are some of the functions you are able to do with ranges, and we kind of have seen them before, but not on ranges. Let's see. Well, the first one is, well, if you want to do a index, you can have that. And where on what data type that we are able to do a index, and then this will help us do a search and return us the index of that value. Do you remember that? Okay, say, how about a list? Say, if I want to do a my list equals, say 8, 10, 12, and then 14. And then if I want to do print my list dot index and then 14, and then what am I gonna get? I should get a 3, right? Because the value 14 is on the index 3. Okay, do you remember that? We talk about this when we are learning the list, right? Now let's come back. Let's come back to the ranges. Now I have a range, and then that is a range from 1 to 9 and with the step size as a 2. Okay, and then if I want to know where on which index of that range am I gonna be able to find a 7, and then that is 1, 3, and then 5 and 7. So 7 is the number 4 value. So that is index 0, 1, 2, and 3. So 7 should be 3. And indeed, I have the 7 as the index 3 in that range, right? And then if I want to do a index 2, and remember, we are doing 1, 3, 5, 7. So they're all odd numbers. So we don't have a 2 here. So we are going to have a value arrow. Okay, so that is one thing, index. We have learned that in the list, and now we know the index, and we can also use that in ranges. And another thing is for the square bracket. Well, for square bracket with a number, that is, we specify an index, we are using that index to get a value. We see that in the list, right? And then we have also seen that in strings, because if we specify a specific index in string, we are able to grab a character from that string. Okay, so now I can tell you it also works in the ranges. If I have to do a range and then square bracket 2, and then I can also grab that value. For this example, 1, a 1, and then after 1 it should be 3, and then it should be 5. So index 2 we are going to get a 5. Okay, and the next thing what we can do is the in operator. And for example, we create a huge range that is from 7 to 1 million, and the step size will be 7. So 7, and then increase by 7 we got 14, increase by 7 again we got 21, increase by 7 again we got 28. So those are all the numbers divisible by 7. Correct? So, and after that, we ask the user to type us a number, and that number should be less than 1 million. And if that value is in the sevens, is in this range, what does this mean? That number is evenly divisible by 7. So we're going to say, if that is true, we're going to say this number is divisible by 7. Otherwise, I will say this number is not divisible by 7. Okay, so how do we check this number is evenly divisible by 7 or not? We can do this way. We can do x in sevens, and this sevens is a range of all the possible integers which are evenly divisible by 7 lower than 1 million. Okay, so we can check whether such a value is a member of a range as well. So previously we know we can use the in operator to check one string is in another string. That is to check the substrings. We can check if one value is a member in a list with the in operator. Now, here's one more thing. We can use the in operator to check if one value is a member in a range. Okay? So here's another question, and you are going to learn more about this when you are doing the 242, I believe. Okay? Well, and the two versions of the sevens. Number one, we can do a range from 7 to 1 million with the step size as a 7. And another way is, how about we just cast that into a list? So we still create the same range, but now I want to cast that into a list. So we have a list of the numbers. So the reason, well, I'm asking this is, well, no, well, for this code, I'm using the first version. If I'm using the second version, that will be a list instead of a range. And this part of the program, it will run exactly the same. And my question is, which one is going to save us some memory? Okay, so think about that. And my answer is, if you're using the first version, it will save you some memory. Why? Because in this way, if you're creating a range, Python does not create a whole list of all the members, all the numbers inside this range. Python will only record this is the start point 7, this is the end point, which is 1 million, and then the step size is a 7. So those are the values Python record. However, if you're doing the second way, and then Python will record the first value is 7, the second one is 14, and then 21, 28, 35, and etc. Okay, so in the second version, if you are putting that into a real list, you are creating a list of hundreds of thousands of the values. So it will eat up a lot of your main memory by adding all those numbers in the list. So, well, considering the memory consumption, and then I would say the first version will be a little bit better. Okay, and then here's another exercise. Okay, if you want to get the range or a range so that we can have 2, 5, and 8, how can we do that? Okay, the answer should be C. Why? Well, C is correct. Okay, we are going to start at 2, so 2 will be the first value. Okay, and we are going to end at 8, and we are including 8. So the stop point, the second value, has to go beyond 8. It can be 9, it can be 10, but if you stop at 8, we are going to exclude the 8. So we are going to stop higher than 8. So 2 and then 10. 10 is okay. So C is the only one correct. So the next question. How can we create a range to get the sequence 20, 15, and 10, and 5? So we are decreasing the values. So think about this one. Okay, so well, the start point has to be 20, right? So we are going to start at 20. So B, C, D are candidates. And we are going to end at 5 with 5 included. So the endpoint has to be smaller than 5. So endpoint is 3, that's okay. And then the step size has to be a -5 because we are decreasing the values instead of increasing the values. So B is correct. Okay, here is a common gotcha. And for example, when we are creating a range from 10 to 100, and then the step size is -2. This range is weird, right? Because the start point is a 0, and then if we apply the step size -2, and the next value will be -2. And if we apply another step size -2, and then we're going to have -4, -8, 6, -8, -10. So the point is, it seems that we are never going to reach 100, the stop point. So how many values are there? The answer is, well, the answer is, if you want to test it, the answer will be 0. We have no value inside that. So if you're creating a for I in this range and then there's no error message, well, you run this and nothing happened. And all the body will run for 0 times because there are no values inside this range. Okay, well, this is just a part you want to be careful with. Okay, and here's one more thing we want to talk about. And remember, we learned slicing. And for the slicing, we learned that in the list. Well, the rule is we specify where to start, where to end, and then an increment, right? And for example, this is the list we have used in the when we learned the list, and then we have the dad's weight, mom's weight, etc. And if we want to do a slicing, we didn't specify the start, so it starts at the very beginning, including the first item. And we are ending at the 4, so index 4 will be the stop point, but index 4 will be excluded. And then the step size is a 2, so we are picking the dad, we skip the 198, we pick mom, we skip 121, and then we stop because this list is index 4, but index 4 is excluded. So for this slice, we have the dad and mom. Okay, so well, this is the new information I want you to know. Well, the slicing works exactly the same in ranges. Okay, if we want to do a range of the odd numbers from 1 to 100 with the step size at 2, so we have 1, 3, 5, 7, 9, 11, etc. And then if we want to do a slicing like this, what is that? That is, we didn't specify where to begin, so it begins at the very first value. We didn't specify where to stop, so it will include the last value, and then the step size as 2. So remember, well, previously we have 1, 3, 5, 7, 9, 11, etc. Right? And then if we are doing from the beginning to the very end, and then the step size as 2, then we are picking the first one. We are skipping the second one. Oops, it should be 5. We are picking the first one, skip the second one. And then we take the third one, skip the fourth one. We take the 9 and then skip 11. So what do we have? So that is 1, and then we move on, and then we skip 3, we pick 5, and then we take 9, and then we skip 11, etc. Okay, so this is exactly the same slicing as we have seen, but we are able to apply that to ranges as well. Let me come back. Okay, so those are all the content I have prepared for today, and well, today's exercise will be a little bit shorter and easier, and well, I will see you in the next video talking about the exercises.